Hi! The guest for today's episode is my former classmate, Tim, when I was studying at Berklee College of Music as a music therapy major. And right now we're both practicing board-certified music therapists. We both have experience working in an organization, doing clinical music therapy, as well as running our own private practice. So when we get together and discussing about what we're going to talk, and there was just a lot of common interests and topics coming out. And for today, we talked about our life after Berklee in general, although there are a lot more aspects about that. And because we're both very interested in exploring the innovation in music therapy, because both of us are curious about how we believe that there are much more areas that music therapy can reach out to than the current practice, so that more people can benefit from it. And I personally enjoy so much to see people's face lights up when they first experience music therapy. So we talk about that, and we talk about our work, team's work. There's a big part are about healing from trauma. So we shared our experience, and we have some experiential activities for you towards the end of the session as well. We also touched a little bit about burnout as a helping profession and how to prevent it, what we do as self-care. And there are lots more other topics, and I can't wait to invite Tim back to the podcast in the near future. And so please leave your comments, your thoughts, and what are the topics you are curious to hear more in the comments, or you can email to generoustalk@gmail.com. We're looking forward to hear from you and enjoy our conversation.遇见有趣的灵魂，活出真实的自己。大家好，欢迎来到谈心社，让我们一起谈心、谈情、谈音乐。Welcome to Generous Talk, an intercultural conversation on music, health, and lifestyle. Enjoy! Hi everyone, this is Xingyu, and today we have Team Cole on the podcast. And
Hey.
You want to say hi with your voice or with your
Sure.
hand?
Hey everybody, how's it going? So glad that y'all can make it, and I'm really excited to talk with Xingyu about music therapy, about cultural differences, about innovation, about what each of us are doing, and I'm also excited to hear any questions that you guys have about music therapy in general, or about what we're doing. So yeah, let's get this party started.
Here we go. So also for our podcast audience, would you like to have a musical introduction of yourself? When people already read your bio in the description, how about give us a musical intro of yourself?
A musical intro of myself?
Yeah.
Like what does that mean?
Just say just say who you are and with music.
Okay. Just tell them a little bit about myself.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So my name is Timothy Cole. I'm from Houston, Texas, and I'm here currently in Houston, hot Houston. I actually went to school with Xingyu, and that's where we met, and we learned a lot together. And I think we're both kind of doing like different things, but what I'm really focusing on as a music therapist now is a lot in mindfulness, as well as like positive affirmations, but it goes a little bit deeper than just the affirmations. It's really about building self-worth using the affirmations. So building self-worth and doing that through additionally not just the affirmation writing, but also reflective singing, and also songwriting, a specific type of songwriting called lyric substitution. So that's kind of really what I focus on, and I can get more in depth in that later on in the podcast about kind of how that all works.
So we're gonna have two music therapists on the show. So we're gonna have some musical fun together.
Yeah. So we're just gonna do a little call and response improvisation, and just invite you to close your eyes and just listen, breathe, and allow yourself to just be in the moment. Okay? All right, cool. Xingyu, I guess if you want to just start with any chord.
Okay. Jazzy one, pop one.
Whatever you
Rock
want.
One.
Whatever you...
Heavy metal one.
Heavy metal, please, let's go.
I think we have some technical issue because when I couldn't hear you at all. Interesting.
Maybe it's because we can't play at the same time. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So
how about we do that chorus? Like you.
Yeah. You go.
We can have a check-in. Just like you play, like musically. I'll play something, and just like we have a conversation, let's have musical one instead.
Let's do it.
The technical is challenging too. When can we actually play all at the same time online? I wish that they come soon.
I'm so ready for that.
Yeah. Okay. This is how I'm feeling right now.
All right.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah. I'm in the
All right.
zone.
There we go. It's nice. There's actually newer research showing that improvisation, any kind of improvisation, can be musical or can be like theater improvisation, is like similar and has similar effects on our brain as meditation.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
So it's like improvisation is like a form of meditation, actually. It's really cool.
There's one fun thing when I share with my followers in China, and one person told me that wow, the guest looks a lot like the main character in the Soul movie. and when you talk about that improvisation, like in the zone, right? We are in the zone also.
Yeah.
We are in the zone.
Yeah.
It's meditation. I really love that, like, clips. When my mom watched that movie, and there was a clip, right? The lost soul. There are those people who are in the investor manager, where just like make a trade every day. And in the soul like realm, he's like the very confused and lost character, just like going like, it's like an addiction, going mindlessly. And then how they saved him is actually a group of, they're a musician, there's like meditator, they're yogi, they're all playing those music, and that's how they call his soul back. And he said, like, and in the reality, the real world, he's suddenly awake, like, what am I like doing here? I'm just wasting my life. And then he just like so joyfully threw out the computer and just went out. Like,
isn't that cool? That is such a cool interpretation of how it all works. I really love soul, and how they really like integrated music into that, and having it really be a central aspect of spirituality as well.
Yeah, it is.
Because I think in a lot of cultures, especially especially a lot of indigenous cultures, music and spirituality are not like a separate thing. They're kind of like in sync, So I'm a very like spiritual person, so I definitely feel that strongly.
Yeah.
Like it's a spiritual way of life.
I agree. In Chinese traditional culture, it's also like the ancient time. 5,000 years ago, it's not like playing music to showing off or to like offer entertainment, but it's to bring wellness and it's a spiritual practice for heart. Because when people listen to your music, they actually, okay, wow, I hear you, I understand, okay, where you are, who are you like, and it's a way to make friends and have those deep connections.
Integrated into every single aspect of your way of life, it's exactly what you said. It's a part of like who people are, unless you have musical aphasia. I think it's just
but what is music aphasia? I think we know it. I think most people don't know. I learned that in the music therapy class.
Me too. Did we watch the same? We were probably in the same.
Yeah. Kathleen. Yeah, Kathleen Holland. Amusia. Yeah, amusia.
Yeah, amusia. There you go. Amusia. So that's when essentially your brain does not process music, at least not in the way that other people, the average person, typical person, process music. So whereas we hear, frequencies as all these beautiful sounds, someone who has amusia, however you want to, amusia, someone who has this condition, they might hear it as really like clinking sounds or something that's just very unpleasant to the ear. So they don't enjoy music.
They couldn't process the music.
Yeah. It's very sad to me, but and it's a neurological condition. It has nothing to do with their hearing or fit. It's not biological. It's something to do with the brain. You know?
Yeah, I also remember another fascinating thing when I learned that it was also people have amusia. It also affects their ability to express emotions, like through those intonation. There's like timbre, which when we speak, all those tone change, those melodic change, they also have hard time processing those because these are connected. They're the same region that process language, the non-verbal aspect of language and music. They are overlapping.
That's interesting. And I wonder how many cases there are specifically in China of amusia, since the language is so tonal, you know? So it's
I don't know. I haven't seen such research.
Yeah, I mean, like, isn't that's something I would love. Maybe you want to like look into, and you know, because I just what you said just like made me think of it, and I was like, oh, you know, every Chinese language, like pretty much every dialect is like tonal, right?
I cannot say like because I haven't done the research for all dialect, but
the ones that you know,
what I know, like most of them, has a lot of those, but also the emotional aspects. Like, I can imagine how it become inaccessible for someone with amusia, that they can't access the emotional part, the non-verbal part, when they listen to other people speak or when they are speaking. You know, that's tricky.
It would cause a lot of miscommunication, and at that point I would imagine that they probably rely a lot on body language, but body language can also differ. So facial thinking, all these like anything nonverbal. But I don't know. That's if I had that, that's the only thing I could really rely on, I think. Unless I'm like psychic.
Compensate for it. Yeah, there are a lot of things. We are getting so much into the neuroscience now. It's fascinating. And neuroscience is the basic. It's a big foundation for music therapy today. So.
Oh, absolutely, and so necessary that we're going in that route, because I don't know how many people here are familiar with music therapy. You know, as it's evolved as a profession. But it's definitely originally not so evidence-based, and then working toward evidence-based in the sense that there's striving towards being empirical in the research and the data. And now from there, it's further evolving into focusing on the processing of music in the brain, and how that can be used to help clients in pretty much any field or any population, age.
I think only so people always ask, I get a lot of those questions. I think you do, like, who can benefit from your therapy, right?
Oh yeah.
Who cannot benefit from your therapy?
I think we talked about that. If you have amusia, you're not going to want that. Better off with art therapy. Or drama therapy. Drama therapy also.
Yep. Yeah. So that's the only type of, you know, people that it's hard for them to access music therapy. But
right, because there's even like music therapists who have worked with, I believe, the deaf. and that's more so with like percussion and with like vibrations and things like that.
Because our body can hear sound as well.
Right.
It's not just our
exactly.
ears. Our body can hear sound.
Exactly. So music therapy really pertains to, you know, anything involving the concept of music and what we view as music in our societies, right? So it doesn't have to necessarily be ears. It can be anything that you physically do as well with music. And you don't need to be a musician. Sometimes it's better if you're not a musician, you know. There are to benefit from music therapy, you know, but it depends on the case-by-case basis.
You mentioned that point. Sometimes you better not be a musician. What do you see, like musician? What can be the barrier for musician to actually be involved or fully benefit from music therapy?
Oh, you know, this is really interesting.
I'm gonna add some context because, you know, now in China, I'm the strong advocate for music therapy, and a lot of people, probably for them, I'm the only or the first and only access to music therapy, to experience it, to get to know about it. And the first myth people get is like, oh, I need to be involved in music therapy or benefit from it, I probably need some music training. That's the people's misconception. So I would say, no, actually, with some music training, maybe it's becoming more tricky for you. Why is that? The opposite?
Well, you know, music therapy sessions, there's usually this need to be like very flexible for both the therapist and the client as well. You know, as needs can even change throughout the session. Just in one session, needs can change.
Yes.
So everything can change from 1 minute to the next. So we all have to be very flexible, everyone involved, right?
Improv.
Exactly. Improv. I think improvisation is like the best. Whenever I have a client whose goal is to be more flexible, improvisation is like my go-to. I was like, we're working to improvise, and like, what's that? You're about to find out. But as far as if there's an issue with music, I found that the major issue is if music in some way has been traumatic, which it can be. It can definitely be traumatic for anyone. For some people, it could be particular songs, but for some people, it can be music in general. And particularly that happens with professional musicians in the classical world. Because I don't know how it is in China, but at least in the US, the classical musicians, I think I was reading some statistic. I want to say it's like 40%. Don't quote me on that though. Maybe around 40% of classical musicians experience generalized anxiety. The pressures of having the sense of like being perfect, and you know, you got to keep your chair and you have to always be practicing, or else you could lose your job, you know.
Yeah.
That's your means of like feeding yourself or your family. It's a big deal. Whereas like maybe in other genres, there's a little bit more relaxation, you know, and it's not because it's more on the creative side, so you're not being pushed by anybody, by your conductor, by your music director, anything like that. But in the classical music world, you very much have this issue. So there have been cases of like, especially in like older adults, where music therapy was, as we call it, contraindicated, where it's actually very traumatic for them to just engage in music because they have so much anxiety surrounding that.
So,
you know, so
yeah, I feel that's the saddest thing.
You know, it really is. And I feel like it's changing a little bit because you do have some classical musicians who are like advocating for themselves more. And in general, we have a whole push towards advocating for mental health. And I think that a lot of, you know, unhealthy behaviors and unhealthy treatment in the classical world is being exposed. So love that. so I love that for them. Love that for the classical music. Pretty much.
Exposed.
That's what needs to be a TV show, The Classical World Exposed. But don't get me wrong, there's lots of beautiful parts to it, but there's a lot of like really stuff that goes on behind the scenes.
I can see that because I have worked with some clients both in the US and in China. I remember it was so in the moment when I heard their conversation, their sharing, it's the emotion was so strong. It was trauma from way back. And I could also feel my emotion is so strong, my reaction to it. I was leading it was a more like innovative performance-based music therapy program. That it was a pilot program that I helped to design and launch and facilitate. The clients were older adults, right? Adults we just talk, and who are still very healthy. They can live by themselves. They don't need to go to an assisted living facility, and they have those needs, right? They have social needs. Because usually they're feeling more and more isolated because their friends, family, close people passing away. These are like trauma and grief. A lot of them are experiencing, and also experiencing early onset kind of physical, like aging symptom, like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's, and other. They feeling that decline of their body, the muscle, their voice also, and their cognitive function. So help them. So that the goal of that program is to help them to cope with all these and start to accept the aging process and understand more how to aging healthily and also maintain their creativity, and also they building a new identity. Because sometimes like when we lost someone like very close to us, like part of our identity also got lost. And how do we connect, like create new relationships with new people that we feel nurturing and caring. So these and the people who come to the program were like, it was a huge range of different background, and also in terms of their capability. Some are we had musicians who are touring musicians when they're before retiring, and we have people who are who love singing, who love music but never got a chance. So during the first session, I was facilitating activity to let everyone have a voice and everyone get to introduce themselves and being heard and share their expectation. And there was one question I asked was about their music experience, their relationship with music. And one member started to share, with a very, very tiny voice, feeling like very suppressed. They're all from 60 to 90 years old. And she started sharing, a bit scary, like, very tight, like body shape. And then she said that like she wanted to sing. Her goal to be here is really to actually sing in a choir. And by the way, the program we designed as a choir. At the end, we have a performance, and we have 3 months of rehearsal. So during the process, we need to address all these goals I just mentioned. And she like, I really want to sing. And then her eyes started to tear up, like she started being turned red, and she had started to tear up, and her body was shaking a bit because she said she also was afraid. She need help, and because when she was in high school, the teacher told her that her voice was ugly. And but in the class, the teacher still have to include her in the class performance. So teacher told her, just move your mouth, don't make a sound during the performance. And it was, my heart just dropped, like, oh. It was like 50, 60 years ago. And she's still suffering from that. Like all these years, she couldn't find her voice. And when she shared, a couple other members just come to like hug her because they experienced exactly the same thing. And I think that's and that then I added another goal for those people in this music therapy group is actually this is a place to rewrite the story. It's gonna have a completely different experience than the trauma they experience.
Yes,
we're gonna rewire their brain. And we did.
Wonderful.
And we did for those people there. Towards the end when they're dressing up and perform like in front of the whole community. We have 150 people attended the final performance at the local like aging center, and the director told us that was the event they had the highest number of attendance. It was the snow day, the first snow day in Boston, and then 150 audience showed up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And towards the end, like once she find, this is a safe space, I'm gonna have completely different experience. I'm gonna be supported, unconditionally guided, and her voice also changed. She's no longer shaking. I can hear her voice was more out, her unique voice, rather than like like holding tight and hard to express. Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah, that's how we can hear trauma in your voice.
Yes. You can hear it. You can see it in the way people carry themselves. And they're obviously in the behaviors, right? I had a similar. I knew someone similar. I had a music teacher, and the thing is, the crazy thing is, I had a very good relationship with this music teacher. She was my elementary school music teacher, and I went back to visit her, and she said something that made me look back and think. I was like, did we have a good relationship because we like genuinely liked each other, or did we have a good relationship because you thought I was a good singer? Because she put me in this special like choir, the special men's choir that sang with like the high school. But I go back, years later, and then she tells me about the student that she has, who she in her words, she says, she's like, this girl cannot sing. I told her to just same thing. I told her to move her mouth and not say anything. And I was like, you really told her that? She said, yes, I'm telling you. I was like, no, don't do that.
And she's like, fine. Like she's not feeling bad or anything about it.
The teacher, yeah, she's not. She's just like,
she's not aware the impact that can have by someone.
Yeah, I mean, she's a very nice lady, but she just didn't understand that how powerful that is, and especially for that age. Anything before your brain is developed, which is around like 27 years old is when they're saying your brain's like fully developed. Anything before that can have a huge impact. After, of course, but especially before.
Yeah.
So that's some craziness. There's the effects of there's a little bit of music and trauma for y'all.
Yes. In the working. Yeah, but I think I found the also beautiful thing like when like the work I'm doing in Shanghai in China right now, because in Chinese, in China, a lot of the kids who love music, the parents like the automatic link responses. So, okay, we gonna send to piano lessons because that piano is very popular in China. And usually kids started taking those classical music training, the classical music, European classical music training to be specific. And, and then those the professionalism, those like, you have to be exactly right. You have to be exactly, accurately play every note's dynamic, change, rhythm, tempo, everything written on the score. You have to express what the composer want to express, but not yourselves.
Yeah.
So these things all sinking, and I met so many people actually in music therapy. Like music therapy is, they start sharing their story, their traumatic experience with the music education, the piano lessons they had that was so traumatic because the teacher would be so strict. You have to do this, you cannot do that. Personal exploration is not good, because you are just doing the wrong thing, and all their initial interest in music got all washed away through those music education class, through those piano lessons class. And then now they're adults, and they still feel that. So I can see that they still feel that strong connection with music, like somehow inside them, like deep inside them. I could feel, if I visualize, it's like a little musical light there, but around this light, this musical light, is all those traumatic experience that's like blacking out, and this little light couldn't find a way out. And that's when I hear their story, when I work with them, that's what I see, is to help them remove all those black darkness around it, and then the music light can actually really grow to what it's supposed to be for everyone. So that's the trauma work I'm able to do.
Yeah. And that's the unique, I think that's the unique benefit of expressive arts therapy, especially music therapy, and what music therapy offers that, a traditional like music lesson doesn't, unless you have like a more modern or progressive type of teacher.
Like the Berklee ones.
Yeah. Is that creativity. And I feel like really encouraging people to embrace their own creativity, to embrace their individuality, is what helps them to break through the trauma. Because it's like this huge barrier, and it's really hard.
Heavy.
It's really heavy. It's hard to get through, and really I feel like one of the biggest ways to break through it can be to embrace your own individuality and your own creativity, especially in the case like you just shared, where that was really shut down as a child, which is a time in your life where it's supposed to be the most encouraged.
Yes.
So it's so you do have a lot of these cases where it's shut down, and that it can really harm it. It can really harm a person in so many other areas of life if your creativity is really shut down. It harms your expressiveness, which can harm your ability to communicate, which can harm your relationships, and so on and so forth. Friendships, or more intimate or otherwise. Then further harms your ability to just function in society, because we're social creatures and we have to be able to communicate and express ourselves.
Phil, I think the music, like trauma-informed education, or youth therapy-informed music education, that's
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is to become aware of that, aspects. I think some experiments I've been doing, it started even before I knew music therapy was a profession in the US, was because I started teaching students when I was teaching music, piano lessons specifically, when I was 15. Because thanks to my parents, really encouraged me, like, you can do this because I see you
awesome.
educate, like you have this great capacity, like talent to teach. You know
awesome.
how to exactly breaking things down for people and understand their needs, and they encouraged me to. So 15, I read a lot of pedagogy book and started to like do lesson plan and teach, and in that, so I just continued to teach in those years, and then I was studying psychology as my first major, and I have a family come to me, saying, "Oh, we want to have music, piano lesson for our son." One, because we want him to have a skill and enjoy the music. The other, I think that's actually more urgent for them, is, can you help him to calm down? Can you help him to sit for a certain period of time, because he just entered primary school, but he cannot sit down for more than 10 minutes in class, and the teacher's really like angry about it, and the teacher's now suggesting the parents to take the kid to a hospital to do an evaluation, like maybe he has ADHD, he's need to be on medication, but the parents like, oh no, we don't want to do that. I think intuitively they are looking for an alternative. I think it's more holistic, a better option, and then they find me. So that was the request to help the kid, like professionally translating into our professional language, like to help the kid to expand his attention span, right? And to be able to follow instruction. So that's the goal we start to work on. And as I get connect with the kid more, and I find he has a very strong channel of like drawing, actually. So actually before we start to, and I find he has all those very strong like emotions, like energies that he could not contain. It was just all bubbling up. And because of this energy, he could not sit down. And I started wondering, okay, where does energy come from? And try to find a way for him to channel it out so I can understand what it is and help him to process it. Because without processing it, you can't push him just say, no, that's just not the right way. And I find he has a very strong channel through like drawing. So before we start to play piano or play and doing musical thing, I gave him all those pens, like coloring like material, and we start to just, hey, like, you need to tell me what's happening this week for you. He's drawing out he's feeling, and then started also verbalizing, like telling the story. And then we started transferring to music. Okay, how we maybe use movement, use music to connect all those ideas and thoughts, and become so it's like multimedia processing for him. And then I started to experiment with that, and I find that's actually what he needs. Is he doesn't need like sit down and play piano and practice, like, learn a new song, but he needs these media to help him to process. And as we work, like, more session with him, and hearing his story, like get to understand what actually happening. And every time after this, he calmed down, he's happy, and sometimes he would just sit and we start to improvise for a long period of time. And I find he's like the end goes that he did not need to go to hospital and get diagnosis or get medication, because the behavior, the overt behavior we see is because, he couldn't focus. He's like everywhere. Is because he's a very sensitive kid, and his parents was going through kind of divorce and not divorce, like a lot of arguments, and he felt all those, but he could not and did not have any space to process it. And these things just keep bubbling up and started affecting all aspects of his life. And so then later it's become a family therapy. I started, at a certain stage, I showed the parents, okay, what we have been working on, and what's my observation, and what's the best thing, and actually refer them to do like couple therapy, and also show the parents some skill in how do you help your kids to actually process, so you can also have a good connection with the kid, and also in the home he has such space to process all these things. And yes. And then later he did not have any, then he's they call it so-called ADHD symptoms were gone.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm so glad he's not on mad. Like,
people forget, and there's a popular Instagram. He's a therapist. Yeah, I think he's a child therapist. His name is Mr. Chaz, and I follow him, and I love watching his videos because he's always talking about like child behavior and child development, and people just forget about that children are still their brains are not like developed like an adults. They don't have all the coping tools. They don't have like those resources to fall back on. They're just kids. So when something is going on in their life, for them it's just utter chaos. So what else are they supposed to do but like act out? And instead of, they don't know, and that's kind of what kids do, right? When, especially before they're fully developed in their own personalities, they reflect whatever is put at them. Yes. So whatever kids put at them, they are going to reflect their environment, right? So that's just one thing people, just have to remember, that kids are going to reflect their environment and reflect what's around them until somebody else shows them something different. It's like, it's really, really interesting, but that's just how it is.
Yeah, when you said like when people are growing up, like become adults, forget how it was like as a child.
Yes, we do. We absolutely do forget how we were as children, because we get all the societal everything like placed onto us, right? Societal pressure, standards, all that stuff, and then we forget, how we were as kids. And children are actually so zen, right? I think Kathleen always said that. Our professor, children are very, very zen actually, because most of the time they feel their emotions and then they let them go. They have these behaviors but it doesn't persist. Yes. And that's why they don't develop depression or anxiety or anything like that, because they allow themselves to feel it and then they just let it go. Which is something that becomes less common and more forgotten as society starts to tell you to, no, don't behave like that and don't do it this way. So it's up to, a lot of times it's up to a music therapist or an art therapist or some kind of therapist to teach children how to express themselves, right, in a healthy way, right? Express themselves in a way that's going to be good for them and also good for the environment. Good for the environment. Their immediate environment, their classroom, their home. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's also good for the environment, as if they were burning down trees. We don't want that, right? So
or if they start to develop this awareness of how my behavior can impact other people, then it later definitely can translate into the bigger definition of environment, right? From immediate environment to the bigger.
Exactly. Yeah, helping them build that empathy for sure.
Yeah, as someone in the community, with all this connection with different people, how this ripple effect can happen. Yeah, I think that awareness is as important as how we become aware of what's happening inside, like all these feelings.
And not all kids have that, and then especially when children have a lot of illness going on, like a lot of I have one client particularly right now who I'm working with through another company, and he's got so much going on. And just the number of diagnoses. So awareness outside of himself is very limited because he's just feeling so much, so that's what we're working on right now. Is processing the emotions. We're doing a lot of that through improvisation, then also understanding how his actions affect everyone around him,
Was it teenager?
No, not yet. Almost. He's 12. Yeah.
Yeah, you work a lot with children and teenager.
Yes. Yeah. So through the company that I work with, I'm working with children and teens, and a lot of them deal with either they have just a ton of medical psychological diagnoses, or some medical issues. But the majority of them have dealt actually with some sexual trauma. So a lot of them, it's helping them process and work through the sexual trauma that they've been through, and then the after effects of it, and where they go from here in terms of healing and getting past that, and then with my own business, I'm more focused on working with adults with obviously self-worth and things like that, because I feel like that's really important. I feel like if we had healthier adults, we would have healthier children, because it's the adults who have to take care of the kids, right?
Definitely.
When you're go ahead.
Oh, you have something?
Oh, I was just saying, when you're working with any client, especially if you're working with a child, there has to be this realization that the child and the client is half the equation. The other half is, his parent, especially, everything else, right? Because you can do everything you can with this child, but if the parent and the home environment is not good, then it's just going to go back to how it was.
Yeah. Because that's just how how strongly their environment impact them. And also I feel like when you talk about working with adults on issue about self-worth, I could see some, metaphorically, use visualization. I can see is, inside them, we're working with their inner child.
Yes.
That probably was not raised by the adults in the past in proper way, or their needs were not met, or something happened. And when we work with adults, we're, as therapists, we were assisting them to by their side as a accompanist musically and therapeutically, to raise their inner child in a healthy way, very consciously, because we can do step by step and see what's happening and learn new ways and practice them and make them really become a habit or a new automatic behavior, that kind of
exactly
thing.
and there's so many ways to do that, but they all involve practicing a specific behavior, you know, and
Habits,
it's
the power of
yeah,
habits.
exactly. Give me just a moment. It's getting like the sun's going down. It's getting dark, so I'm gonna turn on a light so I can
Sounds
get some
good.
light.
Sounds good.
Okay, so I'll be right back. Okay, that's better.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Yeah, see how it was like, right? You see the difference now, right?
Yeah,
So
definitely.
but you don't notice because like it's just progressive. It's like
Progressively.
you can't see anymore. But
Yeah, it's early
yeah,
morning.
so
You can see the light start. Yeah.
I know now it's just
There's
you're
not
gonna
much sun.
progressively.
Yeah, there's not much sunlight in Shanghai today. It's cloudy.
Okay.
It's getting
But
like
still,
we across the ocean, and the sun's going down there. The sun's going up here.
it's crazy. We love time zones.
Yeah.
So, I think we also wanted to talk a little bit about, unless you wanted to talk more about like the, trauma side of things. We also wanted to talk a little bit about just innovation in music therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to talk about that, like in our field, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're becoming like we're definitely showing progress in in like neurologic music therapy and in the evidence and the research, but I think there's a lot of music therapists who still definitely limit themselves in about who they believe they can serve and the ways in which they can serve, and I feel like the way you break past that is we have to embrace our own individuality, right? Embrace our own creativity, because everyone has their own unique experience, unique talents and skills that's going to allow you to do something that that no other person can do, right? Except for you, because that what you're going to do is going to be who you are, right? So, for me, it's really focusing on the self-worth, and I use like specific images with word associations, because that's really something that is personal to me, because anything that I use in music therapy is something that I also use just for myself. Obviously, I can't do therapy on myself, but it doesn't work. Don't try to
test on yourself.
So I'll do therapy on myself, but these are health practices. These are mindfulness practices for me. It's part of my morning routine. In that I like use a specific card, or that has like an image and word association, that I like meditate with that. That I do like a little bit of reflective singing with that I actually, write a little song about that has, basically, like, let's say the word is, let's say it's brilliant, right? The word is brilliant. And so I'm actually like, I'm writing my own lyrics about like how brilliant I am. And that's really important. That's really important. I put it to a melody, that I'm familiar with, and I sing it to myself. And I do this every day, and that matters.
Every day. So every day you have a different word and different sound, different image. Yeah,
I only have 40 cards, so eventually it runs out. But they all say like very, very wonderful things.
Would you like to share one little brilliant song that you sing to yourself?
So it's like it's very, very simple. Like it's very like, if you want to take like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, it's like, It's like, I am brilliant, I am nice, I am also full of spice,
Oh,
something
nice.
like it's like just something, as simple as that, and just singing it to yourself, and you do this consistently, it rewires your brain, it changes the way that you think about yourself, right? You start to value yourself more. And I think I think society just places value on just all the wrong things. We're so messed up, at least in the US, we're so messed up about that, about where value lies.
I think everywhere. I think there's a phenomenon in China now, like a lot of people feeling I don't know how to translate English, called 内卷, which was it an economic term from the beginning? That's where it came from, which just means like when everybody is kind of, so usually like innovation or high growth are like coming from like new like technological technology advancement, right? Then boom, there's a lot of new possibility, like booming values, and then everybody can share. And when there's a certain period, there's no such innovation, and then everybody's just going through this like the existing ways, and then the only way they can compete is, okay, you work 5 hours, I'm gonna work 8 hours. You work 8 hours, I'm gonna wait 12 hours with the exact same same methods or same way of thinking or same technology or same process. And then people sort of compete on that. Because I mean, it's a dead end. Like, how many hours do you compete? Like, it's just 24 hours a day for
Right.
everyone. So 内卷 is like it's kind of become a social phenomenon, because then everybody just there's a lot of people they are carried away in that mindset. Like, yeah, you can hear like in China it's called, I don't hear it in the US at all, but in China it's pretty famous. A lot of people like, oh, I work 996, I work 007. Do you know what that means?
It's like the 996. I feel like I've heard that before, because I think there's something similar in Japan, but please.
It's a 9 a.m. so working 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. for 6 days a week, or working zero. Yeah, it's like 0 to 0, like for 7 days a week, because like basically there's no rest, because you are on call all the time. If your manager needs something from you, you're expected to just respond right away, because if you don't respond, our competitor is gonna respond, and then like we're gonna left behind, and then people are carried in this kind of it's like a storm, yeah, and kind of lost that sense of, okay, what you actually want to do, but more just doing what everybody else is doing, and going the same route. Yeah. So that's you, when you talk about like social expectation or what the society try to push on you right now, that's what's happening, like for all the Chinese young people.
Exactly. It's that productivity mindset. And then not just productivity, but productivity of what society says you should produce. What society values as like, this is valuable, so we're gonna produce this, and it can be very, very backwards, obviously there's some things that we need produced, right? We need food, we need clean water, we need shelter. But you look at, I don't know, let's take like the clothing industry now. Don't get me wrong, fresh threads, right? I love my dashikis, but does someone really need to kill themselves over making like 1,000 dashikis a day? Not really.
Yeah, overconsumption right now is yeah.
That's also yeah. For sure, absolutely.
Marketing, advertisement, and try to get your mind tricked into. Oh yeah, I think the a very common one is also those advertisements try to trick you is, oh, if you get this, you will be happy, or you will be successful. You will be a good mom, a good whatever, a good student, whatever. And then
Exactly.
I feel sometimes it's like a hypnosis, like you are not aware of. It's just getting into your mind, and if you're not setting proper boundary or like proper awareness.
Conditions of worth based on, right? Conditions of worth based on the material aspects, the material things. And you hear, at least a lot of my friends talk about it, and I hear lots of therapists talk about how that's like such a huge issue. So I'm really just reiterating, what's already been said 1,000 times. So I think we need 1,000 times more until society understands,
right? Because these ads are even saying like billions times more.
Exactly. So the only thing going to counteract that, saying 1,000 times more. No, that's not based. It's not wrong to like material things and to want material things, but it's not indicative of your worth and your value. That comes from within. That comes from just who you are as an individual.
Yeah. Society has
and
so much.
Everyone has work.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
The society has so much emphasis on doing, not on being. Right. Then. Like what's then like, it's really become like people become like a tool, because your identity, your words is all connected with a tool. Like you are a tool. How good you are. how productive you are, how effective you are. Yeah, and what's the worst that without doing anything, your being is already valuable.
Exactly. Because I feel like no matter what, there's somebody that you matter a great deal to. Like I think everyone is important to someone. It's like especially important. We're all important to society, but I think
you're important to yourself.
There you go. You got to be important to yourself first.
Yeah.
Exactly. Xingyu knows what she's talking about, y'all. You have exactly. Forget what I said, what she said. Important to yourself. Exactly. Yeah. Which is like really what my focus is, in my work, is that people need to recognize their own importance and to be important to themselves. So people to start doing it. That's all.
That also, I remember there was a great learning point that I feel benefit from, like in my music therapy training, and it's beneficial for my entire life, is the moment, it was the presence of a person, with Basil. Basil.
I remember Basil. Yeah.
Yes. I was I think when it was like when I was in internship and we're learning about we're still learning a lot of things, and there was one time we were discussing about what technique or what kind of approach, what the theory behind, and we're thinking it's doing, right? All this doing. We're thinking about those things, how to do, like actively thinking about it. And and he brought up like, what about your presence? Sometimes you don't need to do anything. Just you being there. It's transformational.
Exactly.
As important as all the doing.
This is so true. Just by being in contact with someone, they can transform you. Absolutely. I love that. That's so true. Just your presence. And sometimes it's so needed. Some people really, really just need someone there.
Mm-hmm.
Don't have to say anything. It's like a lot of times you see this like in friendships, right? In really, really deep friendships and really, really close friends. Or like a spouse or a lover or something like that, where you don't need to say anything. They just need you there.
Mm-hmm.
Don't need to do anything. They just need you there.
Mm-hmm.
Just to feel like they're supported.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, presence is powerful. I like that. I need that on a pillow. Presence is powerful.
Are you gonna write a quote or something or draw a quote?
Oh, I want it like on a shirt or on a pillow or something. Like,
ooh, presence is powerful.
Powerful.
And understand what it actually is. I think it's experiential. You need to like experience it, and like,
mm-hmm.
I got it. Right? It's really hard to also say, yeah, presence. The word, like, just say it. It's simple, but like, how many feelings and memories and experience associated with, when I talk about presence, I always go back to that like supervision meeting.
If I'm with like my more like spiritual friends, then we're gonna call it like the energy or the vibes, or the vibe. What's your vibe, what's your energy and stuff like that. It's like, oh, I love your energy. Just stay right here. Just sit right here with me. It's like something like that. Or I love your vibe. Let's just vibe.
Yeah. I mean, we are vibe. We are vibration. Everyone is all the entire universe is vibration.
Exactly.
Just vibrate at different frequency.
Yes. So I think we definitely went in like really nice direction. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. You got, I know we want to go to another direction. I know. I also want to ask you, you're working with people. I mean, me too, like working with people with trauma. So how do you take care of yourself so that you're not burning out?
Oh, burnout. Okay. I think thus far I've done a pretty great job at not burning out. Like I said, I have like my self-care like routine that's in the morning. I've really gotten into like more like exercise because I've realized exercise is really important for me and keeping me in a good headspace.
What kind of exercise? Very detailed.
I'm trying to get muscular. I'm trying to get
weight training.
I do, yeah. So I'm weight training, but I'm also doing, I go out on walks as well. And that is also really important for me. And I'm just exploring different, outdoor interests. I'm planning on taking some surfing lessons soon because I've always wanted to surf.
Surfing is a great way to get into the flow zone as well.
So that's what I need. But I overall, it's just all of these. It's a combination of self-care habits that kind of keep me going. I try not to take anything with me from the session. Like I try not to bring any of that with me. Sometimes it's hard, when
we're human beings.
Especially if, particularly when like a client has something going on in their life. Like I've had a client where I'm working with them, but they're living with their abuser. But there's nothing that this person can do about it,
helpless.
And like the system is so wonky that, the social workers and the caseworkers that I'm working with, they can't do anything about it either. And I just get like frustrated. And so when I get into those moments, sometimes like that, I need to reach out to like a friend, or I need to go out with friends or do something to completely get my mind off of it. Cause sometimes if I'm by myself and I'm in that headspace, I'm really going to ruminate on it. Sometimes even if I meditate, I'm still going to ruminate. So
meditation is when you see all those crazy thoughts going on.
yeah. And I meditate in the mornings too, and that's also very, very helpful. But there are times where you just have to go out and go somewhere else, be somewhere else, do something completely different. And that helps me a lot. I think my friends help me a lot.
Mm-hmm. Do something completely fun and for you. Yeah.
Exactly.
I think self-care, to summarize in your sentences, is to meet your own needs.
Yes. Yeah.
Realize your own needs and meet them.
Exactly. And it's a big part of realizing our own needs, because, you can't do anything until you're aware of what you need. Right. And there's a lot of therapists who sometimes feel guilty about that. I think there's, they'll feel guilty about compassion fatigue, or if there's maybe people here who don't know what compassion fatigue is when you exhaust yourself empathetically, right? So it's when you have done so much feeling for others that you can no longer feel for them. You don't feel like you're no longer like, and at least for that moment, maybe that day or that week or that month, or you're not feeling empathetic towards people. I was like, it would be like I hear you crying, but it's doing nothing for me. I'm sorry. And it can happen. It definitely happens.
You're afraid of being numb emotionally.
Yeah, exactly. You essentially become numb. And it's a very natural thing. And I don't think anybody should feel guilty. And no one, therapist or otherwise, feel guilty about that, because we can just exhaust ourselves, not just physically. You can exhaust yourself mentally, emotionally, in so many ways. And when you exhaust yourself, you've got nothing left. So that's when you gotta recharge.
Yeah. Just like physical, if you're running for an entire day, or if you are hiking for an entire day, naturally, the next day you want to rest. You don't want that intense. When you do that intense exercise, then your physical body need to recover. It's the same for your mental.
Exactly.
Yeah. What do you think it's most challenging when working with people, it's like as kids who experience those severe trauma?
Oh my gosh!
I opened a Pandora box.
You did, because just you like mentioning it made me like tear up, because I'm very like empathetic, and like I have to sometimes. That's another thing. Like sometimes I want to like cry in sessions for like, especially for children, because when they talk about what they've been through, and it's just something that no child should ever have to go through. I think that is the hardest part. And I think for me, it's probably definitely the hardest thing is just like, it's processing that, processing that emotions, and in the moment, because it hits me right there. It hits me right there in the session. For some people, it might hit them later on, and they can hold it off later on. For me, it's in the session. So that's the hard part, is that I have to still work. I'm still working with this client, but I can't let, what they've told me, like, overwhelm me emotionally. I be there for them, I think that's the hardest part. Especially
how
kids.
How do you handle that then? They put the emotion in a box. That's something I use, I mean, not only therapy, but sometimes in real life, if you encounter like very emotional situation, but you still need to stay calm, I'll promise myself, okay, I feel it, I see those things, I see those emotions, and I see what I need. Okay, let's put into a gift box, and I promise myself I will open it at a certain time to process it. Like that's the visualization
Yeah.
I usually do.
That's good. I might borrow that.
Feel free, duplicate it.
I think I will, because what I typically do is that I'm, even though I feel very strongly, I'm also simultaneously able to really focus in. I'm able to focus like even more, on the person, on my client. And I'm usually able to, hold off until I'm like in the car after the session. And then I'm like, it's a waterfall. Just because there's a time for it, a time for tears, because it can also show like a certain authenticity and vulnerability to a client they might need. But only to a certain degree, because there's also the fact that, this is a child, this is a teenager, and they already have so many own emotions that I don't want to force my emotions on them as well.
Yeah, they need you to be the rock and a stable figure.
Exactly. If I felt like it was appropriate in the moment, then I would probably, let it flow. But
how do you know it's appropriate moment to let it flow?
So far there hasn't been one.
Okay.
But in a hypothetical situation, maybe they might need a hug. They might need a hug, and in that moment, if they need the hug, then I can also accept that I need the hug too, and that can be okay sometimes. Depending on the client, if they're okay with that, and whoever's present. There's all these kind of ethical things to go on, but assuming like everything is ethically all right, maybe a little side hug or something like that. If they need it, then I can also it can also be for me too. Does that make? You can use it for yourself.
Hypothetically.
Hypothetically speaking, now in general, we want to, as therapists, we want to like avoid a lot of like bodily contact for ethical reasons, right? But there are moments, it just depends on, you got to feel it out. It's very hard to just call right here. And I have to really be in the moment in the situation to know if it's the right time.
Yeah, I think it really depends also from, as music therapist, also with training psychodrama, it depends on who you're working with. Like, for example, when I work with children with like ASD and like autistic child, sometimes they need those. Like the physical contact can be like intentional as a therapeutic intervention. Like working with older adults also, sometimes that, my presence in it's a physical contact. I mean, a hand just on their hand, on their shoulder is a moment for them. Yeah, so it's really a very nuanced, physical contact, how much is when, who, which part, how to deliver, and it's a very nuanced question.
I think I've only experienced the physical contact situation. I've only experienced that actually in my internship with like, with children who were dealing with ASD. But, they initiated the contact. So, that was okay for me. Now, as far as like right now, I'm working with a lot of teens and children who dealt with specifically sexual trauma.
Sexual trauma is,
So I'm definitely not going to initiate, any kind of physical contact. And up until now, I think I've only had one client initiate, an actual hug.
Well, that's a big step for them.
Yeah, that definitely was a huge for him. But yeah, therapeutic work can get very deep, y'all.
Can get with what?
Very deep.
Yeah,
It's therapy.
It's therapy.
It's therapy.
Indeed,
I'm the king of stating the obvious.
So yeah, I'm looking at the time. I know we also want to talk about like private practice stuff. I think the time is almost almost up for today. I think we can save those topics for another
what time is it?
Podcast episode. Timekeeper. And let's end with a musical reflection. How about that?
That sounds good to me.
Would you like to leave that or
or... just the same way we began, like
oh, we can. Well, the sound will be different.
So
we can do that. And then after this closure, we will open the Q&A and the interaction with the audience who are in the recording space. All right.
Or we could do, if you'd like, can we do like one of my little like self-worth exercises?
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and just like grab a card and just like show y'all really quickly.
40 cards.
No, not all 40 at the same time.
So for audience in the recording space, if you have any questions or reflection, feel free to type in the chat or prepare it. And then after this musical activity, we're gonna open up the space for everyone.
Now I do have these digitally, but just for the sake of time, I thought I'd just like, instead of having to like you screen share and do all that, I'm just gonna grab it and then show. This is one of my favorites. It says sun and then it says growth. And it's actually it's the yoga pose of doing like the sun salutation. Yeah. So I love that, and then it says growth. So there's the image. So what I want y'all to do is I want you to think about different ways. I'm going to play music, and I just want you to think about different ways that you have grown just in this past year, right? Who are you today versus who are you, a year ago, right? Think of all the ways that you've grown. Okay. Now I'm just going to play. We'll see how this works out. So that would be, so in my session, that's like the first thing that we do. And then we move on to the reflective singing, and then after that to the songwriting.
Nice. Reflective singing.
Yeah. Essentially, what we... Oh, right. I was going to talk about...
Oh, right. That's right.
But, I don't know if we're running out of time.
I mean, briefly?
Briefly? Okay, briefly. You're like very quickly. So reflective singing is basically the same as like verbal reflection, which is an old therapeutic technique, but instead you're just singing, right? So the idea is that in this session, we have like these images that anybody can choose from, and they all have these positive traits with this image association with it, right? Mm-hmm. The person, they can go through and they choose whatever they would like to focus on. So they choose, their particular image. Then we do that meditation like we just did, and whatever their particular word is, they reflect on that. Then from there, in the singing reflection, people are paired up, and basically they have to sing. The person has to sing like if it was you and myself. Well, I would sing like, I have grown as a teacher, and then you would sing that back to me. You have grown as a teacher, and then you would sing, I have grown as a therapist, and I would sing to you. Mm-hmm. You have grown as a therapist, mm-hmm. And then do that for it's about like a 5-minute kind of deal, and then
validation.
It's validation, and it's to really hear what you're saying, and to hear from someone else is actually really different. It's like exactly, it's like, oh yeah, it's like I have grown, someone else is saying it to me. Sometimes you kind of need that.
Feedback,
and it can be helpful. Exactly, and it can be helpful, and then from there, based on all of these kind of like their affirmations, essentially, right? All of these like affirmations that you come up with during this singing reflection, you can use some of those in the lyric substitution songwriting that comes next.
Mm-hmm.
So it all like sets up and flows together.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's what usually I work with some like the self-worth issue with adults.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing. I know we can talk for hours, like 5, 6, 7. I don't know. We can just.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Are we opening it up to questions now?
Yes. Let's open it up for question now. 感谢你的收听，我们下一期不见不散。